Have you ever felt like the world was closing in around you? Like every direction you turned brought another challenge, another worry, another sleepless night? If so, you're walking in the footsteps of King David, who poured out his heart in Psalm 31 during one of the darkest seasons of his life. This isn't just an ancient prayer gathering dust on sacred pages. It's a lifeline thrown to every believer who has ever whispered, "God, I need you now more than ever." David penned these words while running for his life, betrayed by those he trusted, surrounded by enemies who wanted his destruction. Yet in the midst of this terror, he discovered something that transformed his despair into hope. The unshakable reality that God is our refuge, our fortress, and our deliverer. What makes this psalm so powerful isn't that David had it easy. It's that he found God faithful in the furnace of real suffering. When David cried out, "Into your hands I commit my spirit, deliver me, Lord, my faithful God," he wasn't speaking from a place of comfort. He was desperately afraid, physically exhausted, and emotionally drained. Sound familiar? In our modern world, we may not face sword-wielding enemies, but we battle anxiety that steals our sleep, relationships that wound our hearts, financial pressures that keep us awake at night, and uncertainties that make us question everything we thought we knew about the future. This is where Psalm 31 meets us in our mess. David teaches us that crying out to God isn't a sign of weak faith. It's an act of profound trust. When he pleads, "Be my rock of refuge, a strong fortress to save me," he's not just asking for protection. He's declaring his absolute dependence on the one who never fails. In a culture that celebrates self-reliance and independence, this psalm calls us to something far more powerful: radical surrender to the God who sees our tears, knows our fears, and holds our future. The beauty of David's prayer lies not just in his desperation, but in his unwavering confidence in God's character. Even when his circumstances screamed that God had forgotten him, David chose to proclaim, "My times are in your hands." This isn't passive resignation, it's active faith that refuses to let temporary troubles eternal truth. When life feels chaotic and out of control, we can anchor our souls in the same bedrock truth. Our loving Father orchestrates every detail of our lives for our good and His glory. But how do we move from reading these words to living them? Start where David started, with honest prayer. Don't sanitize your struggles or dress up your doubts in pretty spiritual language. God already knows what you're facing, and He's not intimidated by your questions or overwhelmed by your emotions. Pour out your heart to Him like David did. Write your fears in a journal, then write God's promises right beside them. When anxiety grips your chest, speak David's words out loud. "I trust in you, Lord. I say, you are my God." Make Psalm 31 your companion in the quiet moments of your day. Let it be the first thing you meditate on when worry tries to commandeer your thoughts in the morning, and the last truth you claim before sleep. When you're stuck in traffic, instead of rehearsing your frustrations, recite verse 14. "But I trust in you, Lord. I say, you are my God." When facing a difficult decision, remember that the same God who guided David through his darkest valleys is guiding you through yours. The most transformative truth in Psalm 31 isn't that God will remove every difficulty from your path. It's that He will be your strength and shield in the midst of every storm. David's enemies didn't disappear overnight, but his perspective changed everything. He learned to see his circumstances through the lens of God's faithfulness, rather than viewing God through the lens of his circumstances. This psalm reminds us that our God is not distant or indifferent to our struggles. He's the God who sees you when you're overwhelmed at 2 a.m., who knows your name when you feel invisible, who catches every tear when you think you're falling apart. He's been faithful to countless generations of believers who discovered that His grace is sufficient, His strength is made perfect in weakness, and His love never fails. As you face whatever challenges lie ahead, remember that you're not walking alone. The same God who delivered David from his enemies, who sustained him through betrayal and fear, who turned his mourning into dancing, this same God is your refuge today. His arms are strong enough to carry you through any storm, His wisdom deep enough to guide you through any confusion, His love fierce enough to fight for you when you can't fight for yourself. Today, will you join David in declaring, "Into your hands I commit my spirit"? Will you choose to trust that your times are in God's hands, even when you can't see the way forward? The God who has been faithful to every generation of believers is faithful to you too. In Him, you have a refuge that cannot be shaken, a hope that cannot be stolen, and a future that cannot be destroyed. Take heart, dear friend, your God is fighting for you, and His victory is already secured.